Imagine waking up to this headline. Everything is real, the network existed, the cover-ups existed, the blackmail existed. Not rumors, not screenshots, not a friend of a friend, actual documents, actual testimony, actual corroboration, and now the question isn't what happened. It's what happens next to the people involved, to institutions, to a sitting president, and to the country's trust in itself. Before we start, if you like expert-style breakdowns where we separate evidence from internet noise, hit like and subscribe because this channel lives in the space between what if and how it would actually play out. Now I'm going to be careful and precise. This video is a hypothetical scenario analysis because in the real world, a name appearing in documents doesn't equal guilt. But we're going to ask, if the strongest versions of the theories were true and provable, who gets hit first? Let's define the playing field. When people say Epstein files, they usually mean investigative records, court filings, contact lists, flight logs, photos, emails, witness statements, evidence gathered by law enforcement, and yes, there's been public pressure to release more, plus official releases and ongoing controversy about how complete those releases are. Justice.gov +2, time +2. But here's the key. A contact list is not a client list. A flight log is not a crime log. A photo is not proof of trafficking. That doesn't mean nothing matters. It means you need categories. Category A, administrative association. You met, you emailed, you flew once. Category B, pattern association. Repeated access, unusual travel, unusual scheduling. Category C, operational evidence, payments, instructions, coordination, recruitment, surveillance, coercion. Category D, criminal proof, victim testimony plus corroboration plus records. If you can't separate these categories, you don't have analysis, you have a mob. So what's the switch that makes theories become reality? One thing, provable structure. If the extreme version is true, you'd expect evidence of a recruitment pipeline, a logistics pipeline, a money pipeline, and a protection pipeline. Recruitment, who found victims, who moved them, who controlled access. Logistics, schedules, flights, property access, staff coordination. Money, payments, accounts, intermediaries, services, hush money patterns. Protection, warnings to suspects, pressure on witnesses, destroyed records, coordinated legal strategies. If this structure is provable, the story stops being scandal. It becomes a criminal enterprise case, and that changes who gets hit first, because law enforcement doesn't start at the top. They start where evidence is easiest, and then they climb. If this is real and provable, the first wave is usually 1. Facilitators 2. Gatekeepers 3. Fixers facilitators are the hands, drivers, assistants, recruiters, staff who handled access. Gatekeepers are the filters, people who arranged meetings, managed calendars, controlled who got in. Fixers are the shields, legal, PR, financial structures that made consequences disappear. Why them first? Because they leave trails. Receipts, schedules, messages, payroll, travel. They also flip first, because they're the most exposed. Then comes the second wave, the repeat customers, the high-frequency visitors, the ones with pattern evidence, and only then do you reach top-tier names, because that requires the strongest proof. When people ask who's in trouble, they usually imagine prison instantly. Reality is slower and more brutal. There are 4 layers of threat. Layer 1, reputation collapse, even association can end careers. Layer 2, civil exposure. Victims can sue, and civil discovery can pull more evidence into daylight. Layer 3, criminal exposure, only if there is direct corroborated proof. Layer 4, institutional exposure. If agencies are proven to have protected people, that becomes its own scandal. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The system doesn't run on vibes. It runs on admissible evidence. So the real question is, what evidence category are we in? If it's category A, you get headlines. If it's category D, you get indictments. Now the part everyone wants to argue about. What does it mean if a president is connected? Again, careful language. Connection, not equal crime. But your hypothetical asks, if the theories were true and provable, what would threaten a sitting president? 3 things. Conflict of interest pressure. Even the perception can trigger massive political fallout. Investigative process. Congressional hearings, court battles, and demands for transparency intensify, especially if releases are partial or redacted. Legal limits on releasing everything. Some material can't just be dumped publicly, especially anything tied to victims or grand jury secrecy. So the realistic presidential risk isn't a movie scene. It's a slow grind. Subpoenas, litigation, testimony, leaks, competing narratives, and the public deciding what they believe. That grind can break administrations even without convictions. Everyone says, "Just release everything, let the public decide." But the state has constraints: victim protection, ongoing investigations, privacy and due process, grand jury rules. Even official releases have emphasized redactions and phased disclosure, partly for these reasons. So in a realistic world, the full truth tends to emerge via court unsealing fights, targeted releases, trials, civil discovery, journalistic verification, not one giant download link, which creates the most dangerous environment. Partial info plus maximum suspicion. That's how societies lose trust. If the theories were true, a second crisis happens immediately. People weaponize the chaos. Fake lists, fake screenshots, AI-generated proof, selective leaks with political timing, and you get 2 tragedies. 1. Innocent people destroyed by association. 2. Guilty people hiding in noise. So your expert survival rule for information is no raw data, no context, no corroboration. Then it's not evidence, it's content, and content is cheap, evidence is expensive. If the extreme version is true and provable, the world doesn't just react, it reorganizes. You'd see new transparency laws, new rules for donor networks and NGOs, new investigative bodies, bigger protections for minors, and a massive power struggle inside institutions. Because when trust collapses, everyone fights to control the narrative, the process, and the definition of truth. In the end, the lasting damage isn't only who gets arrested, it's whether people still believe the system can be fair. That's the real doomsday. Not aliens. Legitimacy collapse. So here's the final thought. If the theories were true and provable, the first victims aren't politicians. The first victims are trust, institutions, and the idea that power answers to rules. And that's why this story never dies. Because it hits the deepest fear, that the world is run by networks you can't see. Now, if you want more expert what-if breakdowns like this, hit like and subscribe. And I want one answer from you. What standard of evidence would you require before you'd say, okay, this is real, this is criminal, this is systemic? One sentence in the comments.